Good evening, everyone, and I wish you a very happy New Year. First of all, happy 2021. And today we are going to start this year and our webinar series with our travel series session, which is going to be like session number 7. And today's presenters are Sayantani Day from Delhi and her husband Diganta Biswas. So Sayantani, in case I haven't pronounced your name properly, you can pronounce it. I think you prefer to, or maybe the correct way is Shayantani.
Yeah. So in Bengali, we use this so as a sh. We write S, but we pronounce as in sh. That way, it's Shayantani. The typical Bengali one is Shayantoni because, as you know, we keep a rasgulla in our mouth while we speak, so everything turns quite well rounded. And he is Bengali way. He is Diganto again, but then his spelling is such Diganta. I think both of us really don't mind the way our names are pronounced as long as we can understand that it's we who are being addressed to. So I think all kinds of pronunciations are perfectly all right.
As far as we can understand, someone is calling us. It's fine,
Yeah.
no problem.
Okay, so the participants are in, the speakers are in. Over to you, Sayantani and Diganta.
Thank you so much, Vivek, and good evening, everybody. And thank you so very much for taking time out from your weekend, New Year weekend schedule for this session, joining us. And of course, a very, very happy New Year to all of you. I hope that 2021 turns out to be more open, accessible, and healthier than 2020. Uh, Today, we have both of us. So this is a little unusual because so far I think we only had one speaker in one session. And my name is Shayantani, as Vivek has already introduced us. I'm a communications professional. I have a little more than a decade of experience in working. I'm still working so far. And the the session today is about a trail, a trekking experience, and it goes without saying that I am not really an ideal kind of a trekker. But despite that, I went for this trekking, and not only this, but a couple of more. So the discussion will be about what made me opt for trekking despite being not so suitable and a candidate, and what my experience was. And Diganta was my co-trekker in that experience. And why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, Happy New Year and good afternoon. My name is Digonto, you can say Diganta, whatever, I don't mind. I'm a security professional, but at the same time, out of my busy schedule, I ensure that every year, at least once or twice, I visit the hills, preferably the Himalayas, because you can say I love mountains. I love the mountains because, and why people say why you love the mountain? There are two reasons, and not as a traveler. I usually try to go as an trekker or on an expedition to explore the raw nature. Why people sometimes say why you don't go to a resort, why you take the trouble of going and working 13-14 hours a day and staying on camp and enduring the snows and rains and everything. I say two things. One is why I go to Himalayas. It's because every time you go and explore the raw nature, every time it opens up, the nature opens up a new feature to you. You find something new, even if you are going to the same place. And secondly, why we go all the trekkings and hikings, expedition, challenging kind of things. I think I can quote one of my instructor from the rock climbing training days. He said, I asked you why do you go this way? He said one thing. It's the kind of philosophical, but it's very straightforward. He said, hills reminds me that if you want to go ahead in life, you have to struggle, you have to work hard if you want to go up. So that's the philosophy I try to follow every time I go to hills. So anyway, today we'll be talking about, and after that we'll discuss a little, a trail in the Himalayas in Uttarkashi district, Uttarakhand state. Say it's Deuriatal and Chandrashila via Tunganath temple. And it's a special trail for us because you will find the stories of Mahabharatas and other religious connotations spread here and there across the trail. And at the same time, we came across some unique features of village mountains, village mountains, and how they endure the difficult situation, how they manage with their cat with their life in small villages, sometimes temporary villages. So all the stories we will touch upon, but it's I think it's more of a special to her because I'm not very unfamiliar to the Himalayan terrain, but it was her first trek. And how she got interested, and both of us turned very interested to start trekking after coming to Delhi all over again. It's a very interesting story. We decided sitting on a theater watching a film that will start the activities again, and she also wanted to get introduced to those things and those lifestyle, how to trek and how to traverse the mountains, everything. So I think she will talk about her personal account, and it also preferred because obviously first time is always very special. I think you will all enjoy. Let her start with the story, then I will fill in the gaps. Don't So you take over from there.
So we have a presentation handy just to give you a glimpse of what all the sceneries we came across there. And I'll just see. Yeah. So all of you can see the screen, right? Okay. So, on the Mahabharata trail, as the name signifies, talks about three specific points this trail has. One is Devriyatal, the second is Tungnath temple, and the third is Chandrashila Peak. Now, Chandrashila Peak does not really have any direct connection with Mahabharata, but Devriyatal and Tungnath has. So, we'll come to that as and when we come to those specific points. In a nutshell, uh, all three are located in the Uttarakhand state. And if you look at the heights, they are quite a high from, especially for those of us who are living in plains for all our lives. Devriyatal is about 7,841 feet. Tungnath is 12,000 plus feet. And Chandrashila is similar to Tungnath. So Chandrashila and Tungnath are 100 feet apart, but height-wise and not really lengthwise. This is not a very long trek, about 5 to 6 days from door to door. So you start from Delhi on one night, and after 6 nights you'll be home. That way, it is quite preferred among people who are living in Delhi, because any long weekend and a couple of days of holiday manages the trek very well. The best part is, except for rainy season, you can go for this trek at any point in time throughout the year. So if you are going in the springtime, you will find the entire trail full of rhododendrons. So the entire trail is either pink or red or other kinds of colors. It's very colorful trek in summers and springtime. But in winters, it's again colorful, but you will have only two colors. One is the blue sky up and the white on the ground, because it's a very popular snow trek in the winter season.
And personally speaking, I don't prefer. I have been to snow trek few times. I don't prefer snow trek because you don't come to see any trees, any birds, any human beings for that matter. Everywhere, wherever you see, there is sky up in the up on your head, and down there is white
Snow.
snow and nothing else. There are just two colors. Above the head it's sky, and down under your feet it's snow. And sometimes the weather deteriorates, sky becomes black. That's it. There are three colors altogether, so I don't prefer snow trek basically.
I have not tried snow trekking. Why I'm going coming to that as well. And the last point about this trek is it's very easy to access the starting points. The starting points are usually either Haridwar or Rishikesh. So it's only overnight or 5-6 hours drive from Delhi. Um, well, now why am I harping on myself as a trekker? I'll tell you why. Because right now I think I weigh somewhere around 80. I mean, well, in 2016 I was somewhere around 68, 70, and I think on gaining an average of 2 kgs a year, I have almost reached close to 80 by now. Having said that, it precisely means that I am obese. Now, if you ever go through the websites of the companies who organize trekking, you will find that they have very particular and precise criteria for those who are eligible and those who are not. So, to my understanding, people between the BMI of 22 to 25 are the eligible ones, and anything beyond 25, they start getting very, suspecting that whether this person will be able to complete the trek or not. Because once you gain the height, and because we are from plains, we are not used to that kind of altitude and the kind of physical strain that happens to our body when you are climbing the hills. They usually prefer people who are agile and can move swiftly. Now, obviously, when you have a higher BMI, when you are near obese or obese, that is not possible. When I went for this trek, I was not obese per se, but I was near obese. And my BMI was somewhere around 28, 29. And that was one of the biggest concerns I had. And I categorically told the guide, even after booking the trek, that, see, this is the condition. Do you think I should go? And he said that, well, this is suitable for beginners. That way you can. It is not much of a problem. So that is the reason why I went for this trek, apart from the fact that there's a backstory, little one, but there is a backstory. And that is, um, those who know me a little closely also know for the fact that I am a die-hard movie fan. I literally I eat, sleep, drink, dream everything movies. My parents were very scared when I was small. Then that all my studies are going to go in gutter because I am so glued to movies and TV all the time. Thankfully, it did not. I'm sure they are happy by this time. This trekking experience, as you can understand by now, that Diganto has been on treks and rock climbing and other things before we met, but I was never. So my brush with adventure and sports has been terrible. Terrible as in how terrible? I'll give you an example. Before the trek, my only experience of sports was a 100-meter race in school. And in the selection, I came first when you start counting from the last, right? So you need to reverse your counting methodology in order to understand my achievement. So I was so dejected, heartbroken. I don't know any uh, adjective you put, and I think that will fall short of what I was feeling. But I probably had that in me, that I want to experience something which it is not run of the mill per se, and that is where I think Trek really interested me. So what happened in 2013? 2013, we had these two movies. One was Lutera. I think it came sometime around July, and the other one is Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. Okay, now why Hindi movies? Because I watch Hindi movies more than English movies.
It
So
would it could have been the film Everest also. That didn't happen.
no, Everest. Well, Everest, lot of death and all. I don't think that really.
No, it was not climbing. Basically, there is some other story that inspired her to go into the hills.
So in Ye Jawani Hai Diwani, the main protagonist, the female protagonist, she goes on a trek without being prepared for it, and though it's a very small part of the story, it leaves a significant impact on her. In Lutera, I was so mesmerized by the character played by Ranveer Singh. When the heroine asks him what is one wish which he wants to fulfill before he dies, he says that I want to visit Chandratal. And probably you won't believe, I was looking at the screen, but I could feel that my fingers have already started moving on my phone. I was looking for Chandratal. What place is this? I need to see how it looks. And what I saw was breathtaking is an understatement. I mean, it's beyond beautiful. It's beyond anything which I have seen so far. The blue water. The water is blue because it's so crystal clear that the blue sky reflected on it. The water makes the water look blue. So and in Ye Jawani Hai Diwani, the girl goes unprepared on a trek and she comes back in one piece. That kind of gives me a confidence that okay, I'll also come back in one piece. Apart from these, there are a few common points also, I think, between movies and trekking. One is definitely the sense of romanticism. Now, well, the first impression of the word romanticism is all about being in love and all girlfriend boyfriend kind of a thing, but beyond that, romanticism is romance. The word romance relates to a lot of things. Primarily it's a sense of wonderment, and because I personally love hills, though I prefer doing nothing, going to hills and doing nothing, basically being, lazing around. But I think the kind of sense of wonderment it creates in me, I think that is very, very important, and that has somewhere probably left a very significant impact on my psyche. And that is probably why I go back to hills. In fact, the same places again and again. Uh, I think the second thing is that in both movies and in trekking expeditions, there are a lot of stories around. When you talk to people, when you meet people, not only those who are your fellow trekkers, but also people who are not really trekkers per se, maybe the guides, maybe the helping staff. They tell you stories which you will probably not read or come to know otherwise. So that is a huge catch. And the third thing is, I think, new characters and people. So one of the distinctive features I find in hills is that people are always smiling and people are always ready to help you, no matter what your problem is, no matter what your condition is, no matter whether you are happy, sad, you will always find them smiling. Whenever you meet someone on a trail, you will rarely find anybody cribbing about their problems and all. They're always happy. They'll give you a very nice smile and greet you and ask you how are you, and will definitely help you with the directions and other things that you may need.
And there is another point, again, a little philosophical, you may say. When you visit the hills this way, you are walking down the trails and high hills around you, you come to know how small you are in the universe. I mean, a little accident, something you may not come back to the towns ever. But again, it's just a matter of chance that you are living in this universe, that you get that feeling. There's nothing is important that much that you enjoy your life, not your job, not the money, nothing. You just live here and enjoy your life. That's all important. Now, let me come to one point thing. I just want to make you understand how crazy it was since we watched those two films. we decided, okay, we'll go to a trek. Now we need to go to Chandratal, which is one of the most remote terrains in Himachal Pradesh, beyond Manali. It's around, what is the
Manali to
altitude?
Chandratal.
Altitude around 13,000.
Yeah.
Around 13,000 feet. Now we decided, okay, we'll go. We have to go. Since Ranveer has said it's the Chandratal, he wants to die for that, we need to go. And how to go? We have to prepare. I had some, more or less, some knowledge about trekking and all these things. She was totally stranger. So, well, what we did next year, we booked a overnight stay in Rishikesh River Camp to first have a preliminary experience of how it feels staying in camp and staying outside. Okay, we had that overnight, that also in the middle of summer, because we had the idea, okay, we need to go and we don't have time. Summer hai to chalo, we'll book in the summer only and spend the day. It was horribly hot, don't ask how we spent, but we spent one night in the tent. Okay, then next, what is the next? Find some middle altitude trek. Then we found out this one, and you don't believe, by end of 2016, she had walked past the Hamta Pass, that is more than 12,000, around 13,000 feet. He walked down the Hamta Pass and reached Chandratal to see it all together, when staying there and taking a snap. Yes, we have reached Chandratal. Starting from 2013, and by end of 2016, she was standing in front of the Chandratal. Now understand the level of craziness. Anyway, over to her.
Yes, it was crazy. And in fact, Hamtapas Chandratal is a different experience. Hopefully, I'll be able to share that with you again in some other session. Now, moving ahead with this one. So we started from Haridwar. Our trip started from Haridwar. So we took an overnight train to Haridwar. From there, it was a drive of about 9 hours to a place called Kund, where we are supposed to stay for the night, and the next morning we will start the main walking part. So from Haridwar to Kund, we went through. On your left, you will see this picture of the river Ganga in Haridwar, and the right one is river Alaknanda in Jayalgarh. So Jayalgarh is a point we stopped in between for some refreshment, and here is the main river is Alaknanda. It's a very pristine setting. I mean, I cannot explain it to you in words how beautiful it felt being there. It's so quiet. The only sound is the chirping of birds, the river flowing beside you, and occasional, vehicles that are moving past the road. I really long to go back to those places on any given day. This is a project under construction at Srinagar. Now, we must remember that this was a little after the uh, flood,
Flash flood. Yeah.
floods that totally devastated this part of Uttarakhand. So we do not have a picture, but there was a particular building which was entirely submerged in the mud that the water carried with it. And that was a horrible sight. And somehow we do not have that picture.
This is another Srinagar. This is not Kashmir Srinagar. There is another Srinagar in Uttarakhand.
Yeah,
I think Tera Garhwal state district.
And on your right, you have this picture, which is the place where we stayed for the night. This is a guest house in Kund, and it was organized by the trekking company with which we have booked our trip. The next day, our trek begins from a place called Ukhimat.
Okay, here I would like to point out one incident. What happened when we entered the house? I mean, room allotted to us. We found opened the door of the washroom and found a large large spider, the mountain spider, sitting inside the washroom. Somehow it entered the. So both of us were.
I screamed my lungs out without a second's delay, because the spider was as big as
kind of man-eater, you can understand.
Yeah, it was as big as our palms. So We were very scared.
So we told our guide, why someone is sitting inside our washroom. He came, and what he did, he just held it with your hands and put it outside the window. And he said, okay, you are the stranger in their territory. It's their territory. They roam every day. You are encroaching their territory. They are not entering your washroom. Your washroom located in the middle of their territory. So the way he is a local in Uttarakhand, but the way he said it, we understood the meaning, inner meaning of that. He said we are encroaching, the human are encroaching the nature, and not the nature is encroaching us. We are building houses and rest houses, guest houses, whatever, and doing all the activities in the middle of the nature. They are not giving you anything. They are not extending any harm to you. They are just coming and sitting. They don't know who is using it. Is that a washroom or what? He just came and held it with his hand and put it outside the window. So it will go. Don't worry, it will not come again.
It also highlighted, how some of our fears are so unfounded. Like, I looked at this spider and I screamed my lungs out in fear, but I could have, simply held it with my hand, maybe covered with a piece of paper or something, and throw it outside, just the way Govind did. But
But we thought it's a man eater.
well, our city breeding is such that we are not really any close to nature the way they are. Anyway, lots of philosophical stuff. The second next thing is, we start our trek, the walking part. This place is called Ukhimat, from where we started walking, and this is not the usual route. So when we were having breakfast in the morning before we started for Ukhimat in Kund, our guide all of a sudden announced that, okay, the main starting point for walk is usually Sari, a village called Sari. But we will not walk from there because it's a very run of the mill kind of a thing. Everybody starts walking from there. We'll do something different. We'll add to the adventure quotient. And so he said that we'll start walking from a different place. I was like, okay, fine. Anyway, the entire thing is so very new to me. I don't really have a say. So we go to Ukhimat. On your right, you have this place which is the taxi stand and the main market of Ukhimat. Ukhimat is a very small town, known for the temple, because here is where the winter seat of Kedarnath and Madhya Maheshwar is. Madhya Maheshwar is also known as Madhya Maheshwar, and both of them are the Shiva temples. Kedarnath, we all know, it's said to be one of the highest Shiva temple in the world. And Ukhimat's altitude is 4,301 feet, which is, anyway, we should not be comparing the plains we are living in. And starting from Ukhimat, we crossed a few mountain villages, very small villages, and they are so small that you will probably not find them on the GPS or in the satellite map, Google Maps.
So remember, for the on the first day starting work, she faced one of the, I mean, among the toughest challenges, starting from 4,300 and reaching after 6 hours of walk 7,000 plus altitude is not a very small easy thing for a first timer. It's almost about the 3,000 feet climb over 5-6 hours. So it was not that easy. It looks in the picture.
It was a huge strain, because 3,000 feet anyway is a huge altitude to gain in any given trek. And for a first timer like me, well, we'll come to that. So we reached this small village. In the previous slide here on your left, you can see one of the houses in that village, which was there on the way. And this is the school again on the left. It's a primary school of that village. And again, the children were very curious. Who are these people with huge sized bags on their back, and where are they going?
Bigger than their school bags.
Of course, bigger than their school bags. And why are they walking? I'm sure they're not very used to seeing trekkers, because that is not the usual route for trekkers to go. And on your left, this is me. I
Yeah, she is climbing, and took the snap.
Yeah, I will not talk about what I was feeling at that point in time. But if you look beyond me on your back, you will see these other settlements on a lower height. And that will probably give you some idea as to the height we have gained by the time we reached here. This is a little after we crossed the village on the left.
It was just all climbing up and climbing up. There was no plain route. I think
No, there was
no. It's
nothing.
always altitude, gaining the altitude all the way, because covering 3,000 feet, 5 hours means most of the routes was just climbing.
So it was always a slanted walk. We barely had a plain level field walk. So it was always slanted up. We are going up all the time. This is somewhere in between the starting point and the end point. And here are a few critical understandings which I gained during the walk, 5 6 hours. The first thing is that in most of the cases, the strength of your mind decides the strength of your limbs. So before I started the trek, if you have booked a trek with a trekking company, in most of the cases you will receive a guideline, you know, the do's and don'ts, how to prepare, what to do. Ideally you are supposed to able to climb up and come down the stairs of a 5-story building without feeling any difficulty in breathing and other things, or complete a certain amount of distance running within a certain amount of time and not feel anything in any problem in breathing or anything. I did not do any of that because frankly I was working in an office then. It was a 8 to 4 kind of a job which often extended beyond that, of course, and I did not have time to practice. Now Digonto was a little better off because he was into martial arts and all, so some kind of activity was happening on his part, nothing on my part. So I was in idle body, sitting in an office cab, going to office, again sitting there, typing something for hours, coming back, eating and sleeping. So for me, the biggest challenge was to able to continue to work for that long because my body is not used to it. And once your body is not used to something for a long time, it takes some time before it gets used to kind of activity. And 5 6 hours is definitely not the right amount of time. So my legs were shaking, so I had to take frequent stops in between. I was stopping probably every 40 45 minutes for 10 15 minutes. It was slowing down the entire team definitely, but thanks to my guide and definitely Diganto, that I was able to complete that part because it was very difficult. The entire, you know, in a trek, it is very important that the trek team, the entire team, is together or at least closely following each other, because otherwise it becomes very demotivating for people who are falling back, because for them it's like, oh my god, the rest of them are so big achievers, they are crossing it before we can even reach halfway them. So that was not the case in my part. I mean, I was falling back badly, very badly. It was only me who was there, and Digonto was there because I was there. He cannot leave me. And the guide was there because he cannot leave us both. The rest of the team, 4 5 of them, were already somewhere we did not even know. Uh, of course, the guide knew. I mean, we too, definitely didn't know. The second thing I learned is that you must listen to your body, which we often do not do when we are in our city life. We often push ourselves to extreme. We work despite feeling tired. I think this is something we must stop doing immediately, because when your body tells you something, gives you a signal, it primarily means that the activity has already taken place. If you are feeling tired, it is not because uh, it is not because it's your surrounding that is making you feel tired. Your body is feeling tired. So we do not take those things in account when we are living in a city life. For example, when I was walking, when my legs started shaking, there was a time when I tried to push myself, but I realized I'm falling down despite having a trekking pole and everything, I was falling down. My legs were shaking and I am not able to walk. So in those times, I had to stop. I drank water. I took some rest for 5-10 minutes and then started walking again. And yes, some deep breathing, very very helpful in high altitudes. Inhale with your nose, but exhale from mouth. That kind of a deep breathing helps a lot in regaining your strength. The other thing is drinking water. Again, we feel that okay, in higher altitudes it's a colder weather, so we need not drink. But we must remember that trekking is a very arduous exercise, and dehydration is one of the most common side effects of trekking. And your guide will obviously tell you, but you must also remember that drinking water is one of the prerequisites of trekking. You need not drink a lot of water at one time, but drink less amount of water, but keep on drinking. So for me, it was like whenever I was feeling tired, when I was stopping for rest, apart from deep breathing and other stretching things, I was also drinking water. That helped a lot. And thanks to Govind for guiding me on that part. And of course, where will you get water? Because in mountains, you will see the water is clear, but necessarily that does not mean it's worth drinking. It can be not safe for drinking. Uh, yes, Veena, you have some question? Veena, you raised hand. Do you have any question? Okay, I will move ahead, but just in case anybody has any question, they can either definitely ask us at any point in time or put it in the chat box or ask at the end of session, wherever they please do. Here is Devriyatal on your right, and on your left is the last stretch of the uh, route before we reached
Yeah,
Devriyatal.
that was the only part when we are not gaining altitude.
Yeah, that was the only part when we were not gaining altitude.
That around we started working at 9:30. That's around 3:30.
Yeah. So the biggest part is when we were discussing the uncharted route that we are going to take for this trek. We asked Govind that how long do you think it should take for us to reach Devriyatal from wherever we are going to start. He said we should not take more than 3-4 hours. It should be covered in 3-4 hours, which means that if we start walking around 10, we should be there by 2. And he was hopeful that we will be able to reach by 1 and have our lunch there, beside Devratal. And I managed to reach about 4. So you can imagine what happened with me in the way. The big, the most enjoyable part is when we had already reached that part, the scene you can see on your left. uh, Govind said that not much is left and you can walk on your own because this path goes to Devriyatal only and there is no other way where you can go following this trail. So I'll walk up fast and I'll see the arrangements are made at the campsite. We said it's fair. We are both together. We can manage. But I realized how important guides are once Govind is off our side, because the kind of jungle you can see on your left picture, it looks thin, but it is not. Once you enter there, there are so many trails because everything is human made trails, just the walking trails. And there is no path per se to follow. And it was very confusing whether you want to take the trail on your left or on the right, or that goes straight, or that goes to the northeast, or that goes to southwest. You just don't know. You need to trust your instincts so much that it basically made me relearn how it feels to trust your instincts. I just stopped at one point in time because I could not figure out which way to go. Both of us couldn't figure out. And then I stopped at one place. I closed my eyes and I said, "We'll go straight, no matter wherever it goes." Because it is a trail, obviously people walk in it, and maybe we come across someone. And if it is not the right trail we are following, that person will certainly guide us to the right one. And fortunately, we were on the right trail, and this trail opens up in this picture on your right. As you can see, there is a shadow here, which is Diganto clicking the picture, and I am standing by his side.
And the other was the time deadline. Actually, it was almost around 4 at that time when we were inside the forest. And we are a little bit speculative that if the sun sets, the leopards and bears are very common place there. It's their territory that they always roam around that place. So we are a little worried that if we don't reach on time and the sun starts fading out, they may come out and give a handshake with us. So that,
So, Devriyatal, again, let's come back to the Mahabharata part then. Devriyatal is said to be the site where the famous Yaksha Yudhishthir question answer thing happened, where all the brothers of Yudhishthir died because they denied answering questions that Yaksha had. And Yudhishthir, after answering him successfully, all his questions, I am not sure about the number, but I researched about it, and in some places it says that there were as many as 135 questions on various aspects of life and dharma and other philosophical things. He apparently successfully answered all of them, and he again helped all his brothers to come back to life. And that is the significance, mythological significance of this place. But if even if we do not know the mythological part, I think you will enjoy it very much, because it's a very different kind of a setting than we actually see in our daily lives. Here you see that the entire place is covered by forests, so much of green. I don't think many of our city people can have at one place. And also there are a few towers and platforms, raised platforms, from where you can see the mountains as well as the forest, just like it happens in any other forest also. Ideally, on a clear day, you will be able to see Chokamba very up close, even personal to an extent, because it's that close from there. And it's a very famous and popular spot for campers. And you will also see a wide variety of campers. The time when we went, we also fortunately found a group of campers who were there for a 2-day yoga camp, and we were wondering how is it possible to do yoga, because it's not a field. The area beside the lake is not really a plain field. It is more of undulated area. So for yoga, my understanding was that you need a plain field where you can do all sorts of asanas. But they said that no, we'll manage. This is a very nice place. So even if you are planning for a yoga camp,
they were from Delhi.
you can consider this place. The best part of which I really enjoyed, I didn't need to use it, but it is a very handy thing, that if you are not liking the food that your group is serving, you can always go to the Maggie point. There is a very Maggie point close to the lake. If you are starting from Sari and taking the trail from Sari, then you will reach that Maggie point before you reach Devriyatal. Since we took a different way, we found it on the day we were going away from Devriyatal. And that's just a 15-20 minutes walk. So if it is a daytime, you can always go and have Maggie and other snacks from that particular shop. It's a small shop. I'll show. Uh, so here is the team that we have. It was a small team of 5-6 people. I'll start from the eldest. On the left photo, you will see the senior citizen standing. He is Mr. KJ Chatrat. He is a retired IAS from Panchkula. And throughout the trek, he was my only inspiration. I was thinking all through that if he is able to complete, he is able to
70 plus
Yeah, he was 70 plus at that time, and if he is able to gather that much of courage to come on a trek all by himself, he was alone, he did not have a partner with him, then why am I, what is problematic for me? There should not be any issue with me. The one next to him sitting is Mr. Pramod Goel. He's a photographer from Faridabad. The white shirt one is me. I had a longer hair then. The one standing beside me is our guide, Govind. And sitting with the specs on is Jeraz from Mumbai.
And
On
his friend.
your left, you have a better picture of Jeraz and his partner, his friend, Aditya.
But the most important part is that pakora and chai. After working 7 hours, the feel of that pakora and chai is awesome. And you cannot explain unless you walk down that path. And every time on the trek, you walk and reach the destination and get that chais and pakora. That is, you cannot explain that taste sitting in home. You have to go and walk down that path for that.
And the camps you can see behind Mr. Chatrat is the site for us. Now, there were so many groups that, we had to decide on the area where our camps are going to be laid out. And this is the area which Govind and his team has chosen. This is the next morning. That was my first ever camp stay. And,
In actual trekking, not in the Rishikesh River camp.
yeah, in a trekking camp, that's my first time. And that was my first time sleeping in a bag. A very weird experience, I must tell you. I mean, I was not able to open it myself. I was not able to close it myself, obviously, because I've never done it. I was not able to figure out which way the chain should go and which way the zip should lock, and how should I place myself inside the bag so I'm not freezing. Because it was autumn. We went in October, and it was quite cold in night then. And after so much of long walk, my entire body was aching like hell. The entire night I was just shifting sides because so much of cramps and body ache was there. And I was told not to take any medicine, because usually what happens when you are at a higher altitude, if you take a medicine that usually works well in your normal circumstances, that is in plains, it may not really have a good impact on you in a higher altitude. So usually they ask you to avoid medicines. Now, in cases of very high altitude like Leh, they ask you to take medicines like dexamethasone and all that, because that helps you to overcome the altitude sickness, AMS, and all that. But usually in such treks, they ask you not to take any medicine. You can take very short very small amount of brandy or rum maybe to warm yourself up, but even that in very limited amount. Um, the other thing is, we struggled a lot for two things. One is the mobile network, which I usually afterwards found very lucky to not to have, because feeling cut off from civilization, the city civilization that we are used to, we live in, it's a very redeeming kind of a feeling. I know it sounds very odd, but those who have been to remote areas and were not able to connect to the civilization per se by their own will, they will understand the joy of it. To be able to to remain away from gadgets and a flood of information all the time, it's really very peaceful, peaceful for mind at least. And the second thing, we struggled a lot and we did not successfully get to see that, is the view of Chaukhamba, the reflection of Chaukhamba on in Devriyatal. Now, if you ever Google about Devriyatal, that will be the most common picture that you get on internet.
But that is the most uncommon picture you will get from anyone personal account. I'm telling you. I think there are very lucky people, a few people who come to see that thing in actual.
Well, we were not among those lucky people, definitely. And we struggled a lot. We were there till 10:30 in the morning. We started for Sari around that time. And even then, we were not able to catch a glimpse of that particular site.
Okay, before we move on to Sari, I have a small anecdote to tell.
Oh my God. Yeah.
What happened? This portion of the lake side, there it's a movement route for leopards. Bears don't come out of forest usually, but leopards are most of very frequent in that, at least at night when everyone sleeps out. So what happened? We were sleeping around, it was 10, 12, I guess, 12-ish late night. Everyone went to their respective tents. And now, why leopards come? They basically either they pass through or they come to have the food remnants the trekkers throw away in the forest side. So we could feel that something was just moving, because we are sleeping on the ground. We are not sitting on a bed now. We are sitting on the feeling on the ground, and in the we could feel something is moving just behind our head, and in the middle there was only separation was that this
Tent.
tent cloth. Nothing was there specifically. So if something walks around, you can feel it's and there was no sound around. So someone was, she was telling me, okay, let's go out and see the leopard. बोले, चलो चलो leopard देखते हैं. I was like, crazy or what? Don't get out of the tent to see the leopard. You want to see the leopard? I was like, get out of that.
Now,
And said,
see,
and still till that she tells me you couldn't allow me to see the leopard that day. Who gets out of tent and see the leopard?
now you can imagine. I mean, you must have seen a leopard, a tiger, everything in a zoo, but then to be able to see them in wild is something you probably you can never even think of. That's a chance. That's a gift of God. Why wouldn't you do that? I mean, that's horrible. I really rue the loss of chance that I
You
had.
didn't allow me to go out and see the leopard. Who sees the leopard face to face getting out of tent?
But the point was, I don't know what was it, but the next morning when we woke up, the tent beside us belonged to Mr. Goel, and he came out in the morning, gushing that, you know what I did last night, and we were like, what? I just looked at him, saying that I hope he has not seen the leopard and I missed it. So Mr. Goel came forward and he was like, I'm telling in Hindi. Anybody who has a problem, or I'll later tell in English also. He said, "पता है कल रात को भालू आया था," and we were like, "How come you know?" He said that last night a bear came and he was rubbing himself on the tent rope, my tent rope. And I was very scared because it's a huge bear and his weight was too much. It can actually take down the entire tent. I was wondering how to scare him off. And then I found an empty bottle and I just made some noise with it and the bear ran away. And I was like,
The exact language was, मैंने उस बॉटल को पिचकाया और भालू भाग गया.
I mean, so stupid of that bear to, get so easily scared. And that was one of the hilarious experiences we heard from him. But the other experience we heard from Govind was not so hilarious, and we can tell you that it was quite hair raising. He was telling me of one of his previous expeditions to one of his previous treks to Devriyatar, but with a group of school students. Now, the students were very obviously they covered everything in time and all, but they were not willing to sleep in the tents. They said we'll sleep in the open. The guides tried to make them sleep in the tent, but they were not willing. So at night, the entire group slept in the open. And what happened? All of a sudden, around probably near dawn, Govind said that suddenly I woke up. Something, in when you are in open, your intuitions work better than at home or in cities. So he said that something, I felt something and I woke up and I saw a leopard is out. in the area where the children were sleeping, and he was smartly crossing one after the other child without waking them up, without harming them, as if it is a play. So you will find these children now playing with hurdles and all, the racers, the athletes having this hurdle jump, steeplechase, and all that. So, like that, the leopard was crossing one after the other child. And Govind said, I also slept just like that, laid down, because if the leopard realized that someone is awake, it might get aggressive. So I also laid down. So he just stepped over me. He stepped over everybody who was sleeping there in line and went on his own way. And nobody knew except for Govind that there was a leopard who was crossing them over. And he said that I never told this to those children because obviously they would get scared and the parents would get double scared because they were not there. So this is one experience which was very scary. I mean, I tried to imagine myself there, and no matter how really I wanted to see the leopard scratching himself on our tent, but I don't think I have it in me to see the leopard crossing me over. This is the campsite in Devriyatal, and on your right, these are the horses who were carrying the entire luggage and the food and the ration and tents, sleeping bags, everything. Now, if you ever go to a trek and you have such horses with you, you will find something very interesting they doing with themselves, especially when they are left alone, not with the humans. They clean themselves. The way they clean themselves is very interesting, and it kind of shows that how we all are interdependent on each other, and we are not really units. We are a whole. Now the hair on the horse, so that part gets dirty, very dirty, and one horse takes help from the other to clean it up. So the other horse comes to the first horse and it chews the hair part and takes out the dirt from it, and then it stands back. The first horse goes to the second and does the same, and that is how they clean each other. That is the only part which is not really clean, because here it accumulates a lot of dirt and other straws and things like that, which doesn't happen with other part of the body. Now I have not seen what how they clean their tail. That will be something I'll be looking forward to in my next trek maybe. And when they have done all this cleaning and all, so they are rewarded by their human quote unquote masters. They are given the food that we eat, because the food is not very spicy. Or one of the biggest things in treks is that you do not get non-vegetarian. It's a completely vegetarian diet, but it is very fulfilling, and the balance of nutrients is very uh, uh, carefully managed. So they also get that due share of nutrient. So here we are walking down to Sari. Those who start the trek from Sari can say walking up from Sari, whatever. And this is the in the middle. This is the store which is close to Devriyatal. It sells Maggie. Obviously, Maggie is the favorite food.
Maggie Point is a very favorite term for those who are frequent trekkers. Maggie Point you will find anywhere and everywhere. Even in Everest Base Camp trek, you will find a lot of Maggie Points, if not anything else.
Yeah.
So it's a very easy to make food and
available everywhere.
Filling food. So.
And I can tell you on another trek, I think Harkidun trek, I had a chance to have Maggie made on a wooden stove, and it tastes very different from what we have at home, and definitely better. It gets that kind of a smoky kind of a flavor, adds up to the taste, definitely. On your left, it is a small village temple on our way to Sari, and
it's kind of replica of Kedarnath. Most of the temples you find there is near replica of Kedarnath.
On your left, it is the trail, the path to Sari. This is the same trail which you will take if you are starting your trek from Sari. This is our next stop, which is Chopta. Chopta is about 2-3 hours drive from Sari. So when we came down to Sari, we had a traveler waiting for us. We had a few biscuits and tea and all, and we started our journey from Sari for Chopta. It took us about 3 hours to reach this campsite. And in the mean time, we also stopped in between for a particular viewpoint because Chopta is known as the mini Switzerland of India. So there are a lot of beautiful sites, places to see.
It's more than 8,500 feet above the sea level.
Yeah.
And it's a very beautiful meadow, very beautiful meadow that we camped on.
So this campsite was situated at the base of Tungnath Temple. Now Tungnath Temple, the gate from where the entire walking part of it starts, we were just 1 or 2 kilometers away, and you can reach that point either by walking the slopes, or you can take a vehicle and which will drop you in front of the gate. Now, Chopta is again well known for its flora and fauna, the meadows. It is again because Tungnath, Devriyatal, Chandrashila is a popular winter trek. You will get an opportunity to trek in the snow as well. Again, this place is also surrounded by forested mountains, though the view here is not giving that kind of impression. I understand, but this is a particularly favorite photo of mine because here are the two senior most members of the team taking time off, and these were two tents for them. And somehow this entire composition was very interesting and very close to my heart actually. And Chopta is, as it is a forested place, it's also very common to see leopards and bears. In fact, one of the standing precautionary guidelines for us was never leave your tent alone at night. After everybody has slept, do not leave your tent alone. Even if you want to go to the loo, you need to take someone with you because, and definitely a torch or something like that. Because leopards and bears, they keep on roaming here and there, and obviously they don't know who you are and that you mean no harm. So they may attack you. Be very careful.
That's the standard guideline basically. When we go for high altitude treks, no one leaves the camp late at night alone. Everyone should be accompanied by anyone. So that's the standard guideline because things are very unpredictable once the sun is down. So always there will be someone accompanying the other.
Yes. The other most important, most interesting thing you are not able to see here, maybe in later pictures, is that the site where we were camping in Chopta was also the site of a temporary settlement from the villages. Now, the villages down, people there, they come up closer to the higher altitudes because in summer you get more grass, more greenery in those sites. So the herds that they rear, they get better food, and they are not really challenged for food as they are in the villages. So we had a such as temporary settlement here also, where some of the families were living.
It was 3-member village. It was 3-member village with say 70 goats. 70 goats, 2 cows, and 3 human beings. That was the formation of the village.
Yeah, we'll show that to you. So
That is the village. That is the village
yeah,
wall,
on your
boundary
right,
wall.
that is the boundary wall of the settlement. We cannot really say that it's a village because there were only 3 people, and we are not really sure if they are from the same family or from different families, but not more than 3 people were there. And on your left is our kitchen tent. So on a trek, everything happens in a tent. So you have a separate wash tent for washroom, uh, washroom as in toilet, because you are not supposed to take a bath during the entire trek duration. One reason is that because you are not used to that altitude and weather, it can cause you illness. You can catch a cold or something, or you can have some other problem also, infection and other things. So it is always advisable that you are not taking a shower when you are on a trek in the mountains. Once you are back in the city or in your resting point, the lodges, the starting or end points, you can always freshen up. But during the trek, it's advisable you do not take a bath. So you have toilet tents and you have kitchen tents. Kitchen tent is also doubled up as dining tent. This is where we take our food if it is very cold outside and taking a food in open is not possible.
That mostly happens on snow trek. Yeah.
Yeah. These are some more photographs from Chukta, and top left is the herd that I'm talking about of that particular settlement. Top right is a particular goat. There is a story about this goat also. We'll come to it later. And the below right is the small farm that the villagers had within that particular settlement. And on your right below, sorry, left below, you have two dogs who were, well, who they were local dogs, which we later realized. We initially thought that they were pets, but they were not. Interesting is the patta on their neck. If you see that they are very uh, broad in nature, and something that you cannot see what we saw because of poor picture quality is that they had spikes on it. So we asked the villagers that why is it that way, because this is very unusual. We are usually used to seeing leather bells and things like that. So these were metal bells. These were metal belts with spikes. Now we asked the villagers why is it so, and they said that dogs are very important to us because they can sense if there is some kind of danger. So if there is a leopard or something bear out in open, and often though we lock the herds, but the animals can come out anytime. So if there is any such scenario where a leopard or a bear has come out in open, they start barking very furiously, and we get to know that there is some kind of danger, and we take care of our herd in a better manner. But if the leopard or the bear is not able to get an animal as its food, it can take away the dog itself as food. If we have not put this kind of a guard on them, they'll held the dog by neck and they'll drag it to their place and eat it up. So, in order to protect them, we have prepared this kind of guard, and we have put it there. Now, the next day, when we were coming back to the main place, the villagers had already left the place by then, and they had already also taken off these guards from the dogs. So we saw the dogs the next day, but without these broad guards around their neck. Digontu
Basically,
wants to tell something about the goat and the dogs, right?
no, dogs. Yeah, basically, what we have read in textbooks, in school textbooks, that dogs are the most loyal and friendly to humans, and they work as a gatekeeper for any house. That is the country-made version, basically more raw version, we'd say, because it's a mutual habitation. They get food from the villagers, and in return, they help the villagers. They work as an alarm bell against any hostilities from the forest. In case something comes out, say leopards or bears, anything comes out, they alarm them. They are first to feel that movement and alert the
Villagers.
villagers. So that's the mutual relation with them. So it's kind of the natural version of what we have read in the textbook, that this is happens. And mostly what happens when up in the altitudes, higher altitudes, it starts snowing. Like we went in October, late October, starts snowing up in the hills. So leopards come down to find the food, because once everything is covered with snows, they don't get anything to eat there. So they come down. Then that risk increases in the villages. So that's the idea basically. So it's just they are protecting them and they are helping them. So that way.
So here is one of the villages from there. His name is Rajnath Singh, and we were joking among ourselves that okay, we are so lucky to meet the defense minister in such a setting. Anyway, jokes apart, and
Yeah, he was very cordial. He invited us to his house, see his house.
yeah,
It's just basically rudimentary home, one home without basic door even. So he just still he invited us, let us sit in his home and see these are the my children, see all the cattle. Mm,
that highlighted one very important point that welcoming someone does not really need a well decored house or something. It's just that warmth which invites you more than anything else. The way he invited us inside his home, showed us around. In fact, he also offered us tea, and his wife was around. He wanted her to make tea for us, and we said that no, we have to make some efforts so that we can walk tomorrow, where we will go up to Tungnath tomorrow. So he understood that okay, this is how why they have come, and he was fine with it. So this is his herd which he protects. He and definitely the dogs protect. And this is Tungnath.
so let me start the next day, the final day of our hiking.
Yes.
It was not very easy. I mean, we were starting from 7.5 thousand feet altitude. The Tungnath temple was at, I mean, is at 11,000, around 11,000 feet. And then from there on, going to Chandrashila peak is 1,500 meter more. So it was all working and it was not the, so starting from 7.5 to going, say 12 plus, it's quite a good climb, I would say.
So, about Tungnath, the mythological significance of Tungnath is that it is one of the Panch Kedars. Now, Panch Kedar refers to five Shiva temples, which are located in various parts of the Himalayas. And the legend is that Panch Kedars happened after the war of Kurukshetra. Now, in Kurukshetra, the Pandavas they killed their relatives, they killed Brahmins, which, according to Hindu tradition, is a very, very heinous crime. And there is probably no forgiveness for killing a Brahmin or killing your friends and relatives. So then Rishi Vyas, he suggested the Pandavas to seek forgiveness of Lord Shiva, because they said that this is the only way you can atone your sins. Now, when the Pandavas started to search for Lord Shiva in order to seek forgiveness, they couldn't find him, because Shiva was very angry with Pandavas for doing such a thing, and he hid himself. That place is known as Gupta Kashi, where Shiva hid himself in form of a bull to avoid the Pandavas. But Pandavas kept on chasing him, and then he divided himself into five pieces, and five he emerged. His remains emerged. The remains of the bull emerged in five places. Those five places, the Pandavas established temples in those five places, which became the Panch Kedars. These are one is definitely Tungnath, the others are Kedarnath, Rudranath, Madhyamaheshwar, and Kalpeshwar. Now, in Tungnath, it is said that the hands, the limbs of the bull emerged. In Kedarnath, it was the hump which emerged. In Rudranath, it is the face of the bull which emerged. And in Madhyamaheshwar, it was the stomach part of the bull which emerged. And in Kalpeshwar, the braid of Shiva emerged. So I'm assuming that even when he hid himself as a bull in Gupta Kashi, he was not able to get rid of his jata, which actually gave away his identity that he is Lord Shiva and not an ordinary bull. The other interesting thing about Tungnath is that it is said that of all the Panch Kedars, it is the only temple where a local is a priest. It is said that in all other temples, Kedarnath, Rudrinath, Madhumeshwar, and Kalpeshwar, the priests are from south, according to the norms established by Adi Shankaracharya, which is not applicable in Tungnath. It is a local priest which worships the Lord there. And in winters, Tungnath is closed because it snows very heavily at that altitude. And the Lord, the symbolic image of the Lord, is brought down to a place called Makumat. So Kedarnath and Madhumaheshwar the images are brought down to Ukhimat, and the Tungnath image is brought down to a place called Makumat. You can stay in Chopta and go to Tungnath, but if you are willing to see sunrise from Tungnath, you can stay in Chopta. But if you are willing to see sunrise from Tungnath, and there are very few limited options of staying there, very rudimentary, nothing fancy at all, just a bed and a few warmers and all. But it's a very opportune location for those who want to see sunrise from Chandrashila Peak. Now, Chandrashila Peak is a wonderful viewpoint from where you are supposed to see almost 360-degree view of your surrounding, and a very, very good view is expected of Nanda Devi, Panchachuli, Bandar Pooch, Kedarnath, Kedar Dome, Kedarnath, Neelkant, and Chaukhamba, and the Garhwal Valley as well. So Chandrashila Peak is very beautiful location to watch these mountains. But again, we'll come to that later. So on your left, it is the entry to the Tungnath temple. I have not clicked or given any photograph of the main Tungnath temple, because you can just Google and have a look. This is the rear part of the Tungnath temple, which can give you some idea as to how the temple may look. And on your right is the view from the temple premises. Think Chaukhamba and Jonkut, these two are viewed from here. On your way through the trail, you will also find a lot of small but deserted temples. I think they are more inhabited
Local.
during the summers, when obviously more people are traveling to that place. By the time we went in October, it was almost empty. Not many people were going. So I did not walk up this trail. I was suggested by the guide to take a horse. I was on a horseback, which is another very painful experience. Going up was fine, but coming down was one hell of an experience I will probably never ever forget in my life. And probably I will never get down the slopes on a horseback again, ever. Very bad experience. Going to Chandrashila Peak. So this is the trail to Chandrashila on your left. Again, there is barely any path, barely any, I would say, settled path. It's just a few stones put together in a way so that you don't fall down. But you can actually fall down because the stones are loose. They are not really settled in anything. And on your right is this yellow jacket is myself, and the other one is Dharminder. So again, as was in the Devryatal case, I was lagging here too, and I was the last person to reach on top. And because Govind was accompanying the other people who were moving faster than me, he asked Dharminder to be with me, and so that I don't get lost. And I'm sure Dharminder was tired of stopping because the amount of stoppages I took in order to reach the Chandrashila peak. This is again on.
She's wondering how long needs to walk.
Again, the height was quite daunting. I was wondering if I'll be able to walk up to that, that height. And on your left, you can see myself, and probably I was thinking that Andrew Marvel's lines, and yonder all before us lie deserts of vast eternity. It's very philosophical, but obviously on hills you are tend to be philosophical. The right picture is that of a cairn. It's usually it's a very usual sight in the mountains because it is used to mark the trails, the particular points from where drifts happen, or to mark something significant, or also to mark as a memorial to someone. So this is a still medium altitude, going by the other higher ones like Mount Everest or Annapurna or K2 or Kanchenjunga. But this is a very common usage of stones in those areas. In very higher altitudes, you will also find these to be used as means to mark a memorial. So in very higher altitudes, people die on the way. They are not able to complete the summit, and somehow for medical complications or other reasons, they may die as well. So though their mortal remains are brought down, though in very high altitudes like Everest and all, it is said that many bodies are still on the Everest, buried under snow. So, to mark a memorial, these kind of cairns are formed in their name.
There is the top of
Yeah, this
Chandrashila.
is Chandrashila Peak on your left. It is, you can't see Nanda Devi actually because it was already cloud had started gathering by the time we reached up there. But that's Nanda Devi in the backdrop.
That's actually, it was around 1:30 we reached Chandrashila top. There is a common principle in high altitude areas. Those who have been into high altitude must be knowing. We start early because we, after midday, that is around after 12, weather starts deteriorating.
That's true.
Till 12 morning, there is high propensity that weather will be clear and sky will be blue. But after 12, the weather starts deteriorating and becomes very unpredictable. uh, Clouds gather, and sometimes high altitude snowfall happens, and when snowfall happens, oxygen level drops significantly. Those things starts happening after 12:30. So if you want to have a good view in high altitude areas, try to reach that viewpoint before 12 to have the best chance of having that view,
Clear view, yeah.
whatever you are looking for. Yeah, that is the best basic principle.
So obviously, the entire team failed because of me because I was talking so much on the way. Though many people reached earlier and they had a very slim window of viewing Nanda Devi and other things, but I barely managed to have a peek. The second photo is of Mr. Chatrat, again my inspiration throughout the trek. And the extreme right is that of Jeraz and myself. We are having our not really breakfast. I don't know why I've written breakfast. It's a packed lunch or brunch kind of a thing happening there. Um, it was very nice to be there on the top because otherwise you get to hear people and birds and some this that, but somehow at that point there was no sound. So if you are not talking or people around you are not talking, there is not a single sound except for that of wind. And I remember in one of the movies, I think in all probability Bucket List, Morgan Freeman and Nicholson, Morgan Freeman talks about sound of mountain. I don't know what it is because he did not define it. He could not define it. But we can just try to imagine what it could be. It's probably that silence, and only to be interspersed by the sound of the wind and maybe water at times. But you won't feel scared of that silence. Usually silence is a very scary feeling, but up in those hills, up in that surrounding, silence is very soothing. It soothes your soul, it soothes your being somehow, and you feel completely rejuvenated. You feel like a different person altogether after you come down to the plains.
Probably that is called the lap of nature.
Maybe in the truest sense. I have copied this from one of the companies who organize treks, so that I can give you some understanding as to what should you expect to see from Chandrashila Peak. So Chaukhamba obviously is the biggest attention gainer, and there are four peaks of Chaukhamba, which is why it gets its name Chaukhamba. And you have Janukut, and then the Mandani Parvat. There are some more on the right side as well, but I could not manage to get a picture, which
Yeah,
I
there is a
that is
view
why.
of Nanda Devi also, but it's very rare because the angle is so difficult. As mostly it's covered in cloud. When I reached couple of minutes before her, I also had a glimpse, but before I clicked a photograph, it disappeared in cloud. So that way, it's just.
It's just matter of seconds up in those altitudes for everything. So our time's up. We are coming back to Haridwar for our return to Delhi. And on your left, this is the confluence of Alaknanda and Mandakini. You have seen handle number of pictures of this, but I just thought it's a good way of wrapping up. And on your right, it's a lunch break scene. I think it is from the day of Devriya Tal trek. So this is the lunch break on our way to Devriya Tal. As you can see, Jera's finished it quickly and he is having a quick power nap. And because I was the last to reach there, when everyone has finished, I was just starting my lunch.
Again, that is a challenging thing to add to it. Lunch is very important because when you are working, you are just stretching yourself to your limit, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours sometimes. Then you have to stop and have some food. But once you stop at that point in time and have food and then start working, because you have almost half the way to go still, it's the most difficult thing to pick up because your body lives and you just cannot pick the gather the strength to
Keep on walking.
start again. Basically, it's a very difficult thing. I find this the most difficult thing. But you cannot
Yes.
skip the lunch. That is the thing. You have to have food, otherwise you will fall down.
You cannot skip the lunch, and you cannot stop there either. You cannot take a long rest and start again, because you obviously are on a time bound walk. So post lunch walk is the most challenging part every day of the trek. On your left is the photograph, nighttime photograph from Devriya Tal. We had a bonfire. Though maybe if you're having a summer trek, you may not be allowed a bonfire, because the forest is very dry at that time and bonfires are likely to cause wildfires. So you may or may not have a chance to have a bonfire. On your right is a group photo from
The entire
the
group, yes.
Tungnath temple premises, with Garhwal Himalayas in the background. So all men in blue and black. Only Govind and I are in dazzling yellow. So, what is the success mantra for an obese trekker like me? They are in front of you. As you can see, Diganto is carrying his bag and my bag as well. Govind also did that and at some point in time. And that was a big lesson I had in this trek. I never ever tried to carry my rucksack in any other trek ever again. I always offloaded my main bag and had a day pack with me, because I realized my shoulders are not strong enough to carry the load of an entire rucksack. A day pack is better still. And on the right is Govind in the backdrop of Devriyatar. He is a master guy. I mean, I learned so much from him, and I still apply those tricks in some places or the other. Thank you so very much for bearing with this long story. And there is a write up on this particular trick in on my blog. The links are given here. It's a two-part blog because I did not want one blog to be very long and tiring. So I broke it up into two. So if you have time, and if our conversation, our presentation interested you, you can go through the blogs and maybe comment whatever you feel like. So thank you so very much for bearing with us, and I'll stop sharing screen now.
So the
Thank,
after
thanks.
today's session, some of you may feel interested going onto a trek or hill. The only thing is get prepared before you go, because there is a old saying that mountain never क्या बोलते हैं? Mountain
Forgets.
never pardon your unpreparedness. That's the old saying.
I don't know how mountains have punished me. Maybe at a later stage I'll realize. But as of now, yes, I thoroughly loved being on a trek, and I wish I go back soon. Though I have gained much more over the years, the
No,
weight part of
she
it.
will go sooner or later, because that's a thing you develop feeling.
So
So
thank you so very much. Yes,
Yeah, yeah. Thanks,
Vivek, you were saying
Anthony,
something.
and thanks, Diganta. Yeah, I was saying like one of the participants. She's saying if you can post the link for the blog in the chat box.
Okay, I'll do
And
that.
Diganta said like after watching this presentation and listening to both of you, if anyone is like inspired to go, I would say that I read the blogs, I was inspired, but as soon as I reached the point where the leopards was mentioned, it just simply scared me. And
no,
maybe like,
Vivek, yeah, I would point out one something. Leopards are by nature is very shy animal. Never. It's my experience going into the wild. The wild animals are more civilized than the civilized people. When you are into wild, they don't need food from you, so they have no interest in attacking you. They are more interested in their life, never interfere with human being. Only time they attack when they feel threatened. So unless you interfere into their life, they will never come and interact with you. You can see them from a distance, they won't have any problem with that. That is the character of leopard, you can say. They are not as fearsome as they are portrayed.
yeah, but maybe if the leopard is hungry, then I have only one life to live.
No, that is the point, because they don't have to go hungry, because in that thick forest they have no dearth of food.
Okay, but still, like as a beginner, I would like to
But
begin
yes,
with a track which doesn't have these wild animals. Like I'm okay with wild plants and trees and everything. So maybe the Harki Doon track might be a safer bet for people like me.
no, I can't say that. There is also leopard, but don't get out of the tent to see the leopard. Then it's not the fault of the leopard, obviously.
Okay, okay.
There was
So
something
over to
more
the
very interesting happened on our second day when the day we were coming back from Chopta to Kund. Uh, so we went up in the morning to Tungnath and Chandrashila, and we were back around 2:30 in the afternoon. So when we came, our tents were still there, but the settlement which was behind us, that was totally empty. There were no animals, there were no men, and we were wondering, and the dogs again, they were without the guards. So we were wondering what happened to them, and all the way to our home, and even after many months after that, we were wondering that maybe on the previous night something like a snow leopard or something more insidious and dangerous had come, and we missed seeing it, and that is the reason why the villagers have left that place and gone back to their villages. So that is why the entire settlement emptied suddenly one night without any because the previous evening when we went and talked to them, they never said that they're going to go back to their villages the next day, and it never seemed that is a plan. But they were not there on the next day, so we were just having our stories made up in our mind that maybe something very dangerous came and it was a big threat to their animals, and so they decided to go back to their villages. And again, I was saying that okay, you again made me lose a chance to meet something and a wild animal in the wild.
Yeah, I agree. For me, the highlight of today's session was like your description of screaming when you saw a spider, to later on, like you were ready to go out and face the leopard. So that these are two extremes.
I think the spider was very unexpected, and probably I was not yet out of my city mode. But by the time I saw the spider, and so usually at home, if I see a spider or a lizard or a cockroach, I'll react the way I did seeing the spider. But by the time I was in the camp, I think I was already out of that mode, and I was more comfortable being in the wild. And so probably meeting a wild animal like a spider was very unexpected.
Later on also, but that reaction was not that panicky. The same thing has happened later on also. The spider is a very
Okay.
common thing in washroom, closed washroom. They feel, outside. They feel cold and cozy, so they come out, come inside and stay somewhere.
So anyone else with a query or a question or a comment, feedback? We have Sayantani Ghosh from Pune also, who even
Hi,
invited one of her
Hi,
friends.
Shantani.
hi, Sayantani, my
Ro-
dear namesake. This was a wonderful session. My God, I absolutely love the anecdotes, like I wrote in the chat also. That there's so many
Thank you so
stories.
much.
Like I guess Vivek sir, I was telling in one of the previous travel series session also that traveling brings strangers together. They bring strangers together, and you broaden your horizon so much. And every time you visit a place, you will come back with n number of stories. And that is what I felt by
Yes.
listening to their narration. It was absolutely beautiful, Shahid and Diganto. Thank you so much for
Thank you. Thank you so much.
thank you so much. I am still waiting for Diganto's goat story though. What happened to the goat, and was
Mhm.
the special
Oh
story?
yeah, goat story.
Oh, goat. Basically, that we have that particular goat. That is a renegade goat. We would say it's a they never go with the herd. It's a he prefers roaming around that village area and eating up the
Farm.
flower plants they had planted around their house. So what
Hmm.
they did, that Mr. Rajnath Singh, not the minister, Rajnath Singh, he tied it up in the on the premises and don't allow it to go with the others because he always goes some other way around. And never comes back in time. So when we went there, he said, okay, we introduced to his favorite goat. Okay, he is the goat. He is a notorious goat. So he never goes. So okay, fine. We went near to him and we are talking. By the meantime, what he did, he started chewing my shoes laces. Started chewing my shoelaces. He found it in front of his mouth and started chewing. Then I realized after some time, so something is happening. Okay, I moved my foot and then he became very angry. Wanted to
He was charging on him, I
charging me.
guess.
Yes, wanted to charging me. Basically, he was tired by
He's
that's why
taking
he
away
couldn't
food
see.
is
We have
mine.
another picture. It basically shows he's very angry and looking the way that he, okay, you didn't allow me to do this. How crazy you are. दिखा देंगे आ जाओ तुम मेरे एरिया में आके मेरे साथ so that way. So
So, Shantani, that was the moment when I realized we have this very common Bengali saying, Pagole ki na bole, chagole ki na khaye.
Yes.
So, a lunatic speaks everything and a goat eats everything. So, that was the living example that a goat eats everything. I could not
it,
have imagined
I mean,
chewing
we
shoelaces, to be
something
honest.
it's something never came to us mind. We were talking to Mr. Rajnath Singh. Okay, this happened, that happened. By the meantime, he just silently came and started chewing the shoelaces.
I think I had a so I like I was telling Vivek sir also, and the participants who were there in our previous travel series must know that I had done Kedarnath when I was some 6 7 years old. Okay, so I had similar experiences, like you were talking about Maggie Point, and you were talking about goats, and you were talking about horses. So I preferred from very childhood. I do not prefer being on a animal's back. I feel very, I don't know, I can feel some kind of pity that why are we giving trouble to that person? He's also a living person, right? Yeah, I consider him as a person. This is why I'm telling this way. So yes, climbing down the hills or mountains on a horseback is a very difficult task, is what I was told by one of our fellow travelers. Uh, and I had a very strange experience of what I would say. One of the horses that was moving past us, it fell off the cliff right in front of us, and for a baby, for a kid of 6 7 years, that was a very traumatic experience. So that is why I don't think. So there were pittus as well.
Yeah.
केदारनाथ के ट्रेल में वो पिट्ठू से ऊपर लेके जाते हैं, स्पेशली if kids are small, that they prefer taking them on pittu. So yes, on while I think in Kedarnath or Yamunetri, I don't remember. I was so tired that one pittu had to carry me uh, for a while. I remember going up on a pittu, but not on a horseback. And yes, Maggie points are very famous everywhere throughout Uttarakhand and all the Himalayan trail. Everywhere, Maggie points are very famous. And a lot of
True.
people, a lot of villages run their livelihood from those Maggie points, is what I know. This was a
So Maggie
very,
Point is not really Maggie only. There are other
ah,
things also. You get
yes,
biscuits, you
yes.
get tea, you get some kind of local sweetmeat, something.
So
The horse.
I
No,
wanted
I was saying the horse are really crazy. They always prefer the god side. Never comes in the hillside.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So
As
I
if
wanted to ask you something. So were you already aware that it was a Mahabharata trail when you had started the trekking? Did you do some back research for it, or you came to know about the historical significance of this place after going to the trek?
No, I mean the Mahabharata part was known from the beginning, but I would say that I knew only one part of it because I was aware of the Devyatal's significance and its mentioned in the Mahabharata. I wouldn't say
Hmm.
mention, but its relation with Mahabharata. But the Panch Kedar one, I came back. There was some local folklores going on. I heard about the
Hmm.
local peoples were talking about it, and I came back and I researched more about it, and then I came to know about the Panch Kedar, the backstory of Panch Kedar, and how Lord Shiva hid himself as a bull in Gupt Kashi, and all those backstories. So it was
Okay.
partially known. Yes, you will find these stories on the websites also. You know, if
Hmm.
you are going with a renowned trekking company, they will always have these little anecdotes in their website. So the
That's
travel
okay.
detail will have these in all probability.
And always, we prefer always talking to the local cooks, the
Hmm.
guest house caretakers. They have always scintillating stories to tell. And one
Well,
more
yes.
interesting experience. One most interesting experience. We were climbing from Deuriatal, climbing for Deuriatal from
Okimat.
Ukimat. There was a
Hmm.
place that helicopter service that goes to Kedar temple base, that passes through that area. I think from Joshimat to say
Kedarnath.
Kedarnath, that helicopter passes through that area. There was a point we were standing at a level and the helicopter was going
Below
below
us.
that level. We are looking at the helicopter looking down the field.
Down. Oh
So it was
wow,
very interesting. Yeah.
that must be
So we were
some
standing at a
strange
point which was
experience.
higher than the altitude at which the helicopter was flying, and we were quite amazed. I mean, for me, see, he has been a trekker, he has been on higher altitude, but I have never walked up that high. So for me, it was I couldn't believe it. I was like, maybe that is flying low for some reason. But then Govind told me that that is the usual height. That's the maximum height it can go actually here. So you are on a higher side. I was like, oh my God, quite an achievement for me.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you for this lovely session.
Thank you
Lovely.
so much, Anthony.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Oh, I think
Yeah,
Rosemary has a question.
Sayantani, Rosemary had
Yeah.
a question. Yeah.
What was the first thought that came to your mind when you reached the camp point? So the very first feeling was a sense of relaxation, that okay, now I can just uh, sit and rest for some time without the fear of getting up and starting walking again. The second thing was excitement, definitely, because that will be my first time in a camp in a wild setting like that. I think that was very, very interesting. I was looking forward to a lot more like this. And the other thing which came unexpectedly my way was a wonderful view in night of the Milky Way. So the sky was so clear that we could see the Milky Way as clear. I mean, even the pictures probably are not that clear on internet. It was wonderful sight. So I think those were the two main things which came to my
And
mind.
what came to my mind is, okay, cooking tent is set up, so we'll get some food now.
Uh, okay. The other was where to next? Well, I'm not going anywhere because I have gained enormously over the past few years. So probably this time I will not be able to carry off. But Diganto has enrolled for a basic mountaineering course at Nehru Institute of Mountaineering in Uttarkashi for March 2022. And he will be probably going on his conditioning camp for the mountaineering course in sometime, maybe
Maybe
in summer
Kuari Pass in March, April in
or in
Uttarakhand.
summer. Yeah,
Uttarakhand, yeah.
it depends on the COVID situation how it
Thank you.
evolves. Yeah.
So thanks both of you. It was a long session, and we have one of our presenters for a future session also in the participants, Mr. Selvarajan. So,
Wow.
Mr. Selvarajan, if you can please unmute yourself and maybe switch on your video, we would like to have a short intro.
Sorry, my video is not good. Now there is no signal. Anyway, I am very much pleased to hear this lengthy talk, but it's good, really, it was good. I'll be talking about birds and my renders with birds. That is on February last 27th. So I'm a birder from the college days. Now I am 65, and last 40 years I am in the on the birding, and I used to go to places, many places, entire the country. I would like to talk about my experience with the birds and how I have gone to so many other places, including the Himalayas and Western Ghats. So I would like to talk something about it and how I was introduced to birding and all those things. So I will introduce you some beautiful birds also. So you will be coming across some of the lovely birds which you might not have met at all. So and I would like to talk about some of the migratory birds and how they are migrating and all those things, and now we are going behind them. So let me see what best I can do it. So it will be on February 27th, as Mr. Vivek has told.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
we'll wait. I just would love to hear the other speakers also in the next few days. Okay.
yeah. Thanks, Mr. Selvarajan, and we look forward to your session. I am sure it will be an interesting session as all our travel series sessions have been. And next Saturday we will have Mr. Indranil Kar, who is a professional mountaineer and a professional photographer. And I would like all the participants who were there today to be present for that session, because I have seen what he's going to present and it's going to be an incredible session. So please be there. And tomorrow we will have our Sunday webinar at 11 a.m. The speaker is Mr. Madhavan, and he will be telling us about how content or the way we treat content has changed after COVID. He's a publisher, so that session would also be of interest to all of us who are from the field of editing. So, see you all tomorrow and have a nice evening.